But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Let me tell you about my great God. Hey guys, Pastor Tim here. Hope you're ready to get your day started off in God's Word. We are in Genesis chapter 30, and sorry if you've been following. It's been a while since we posted a devotional video, but please forgive me. Texas has been frozen this past week, and now we're much better. We're back in church and everything. If you are one of those in Texas, Lighthouse Baptist family, if you need any help, if you're still facing problems or just the after effects of the things that happen from the power outages and water and so forth, let us know by all means. Please let us know. We'll be more than willing to lend a helping hand to you. But in the meantime, finally back here in my office, finally back doing these daily in the Word videos. Forgive me. But anyway, we're in Genesis chapter 30. Now, Genesis chapter 30 continues kind of where we left off with Genesis chapter 29 and the conflict between Leah and Rachel. All right. And one was favored by Jacob, being Rachel, and the other was favored by God, you could say, in Leah, in which she was allowed to bear sons for Jacob. Sorry, forgive me. And this was a big deal, especially back then, especially Jacob being part of the covenant blessing of God, bringing forth him who would be a blessing unto all the world. All right. Now, obviously, that wasn't going to happen soon. That was going to happen thousands of years later in Jesus Christ. But it made it a very big deal, more so than culturally, in the fact that Rachel would obviously want to bear sons for Jacob. All right, so we see kind of a fighting happening in the first half of this chapter. All right, and oh my word, this family is, Jacob was a schemer, and now we see Leah and Rachel. They themselves are also schemers, and it doesn't lead to anything good. And in fact, I think it has an influence on how the sons grow up as well and how they interact and treat others. And we definitely see that in how they treat Joseph later on. But the main problems we see in this family are favoritism, all right, and scheming. Okay, and remember what we say all the time, scheming is not believing. And so what happens here is, Rachel's like, well, if I'm not able to give Jacob any sons, well, then I'm going to give him my handmaiden, and he can have sons through her, and therefore, technically, they're my sons. All right, because that's her handmaid. It's the same thing that happened with Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar. All right, so Rachel gives Jacob her handmaiden. He has 2 sons by her. Leah realizes, I'm not having children for Jacob anymore, so I might as well give Jacob my handmaiden. All right, so she's trying to one-up her. All right, that handmaiden has 2 sons as well. Then there's this whole thing with the mandrakes and so forth. And Rachel and Leah barter again, saying, hey, if you give me those, I'll let you spend a night with Jacob. And Leah then does that, and she's actually able to have 2 more sons for Jacob. So if you're keeping count, we're at 10 sons, all right? Because remember, last chapter, Leah gave Jacob 4 sons, 2 more for Leah again, and now we're up to 10. And if you know anything about Jacob in the Bible, he has 12 sons. Well, now God finally looks favorably upon Rachel, and he allows her no longer to be barren. She's able to have sons for Jacob. In this chapter, we see only that she has Joseph, a very familiar name to us. But we do know later on she does also have the youngest son, Benjamin, completing all 12 sons. As we know in the Bible history, they eventually become representative of the 12 tribes of Israel. For the most part, there's a couple of exchanges, mixes, and so forth later on, especially after they leave Egypt and so forth. But that's what it represents, all right? This is the beginning of God's covenant blessing, saying you'll become a great nation, all right? It's going to be used in Jacob's 12 sons. The scheming doesn't stop there. Jacob, after Joseph is born, he realizes, I want to go back home. I want to strike it on my own and just provide for my family and my own house. And he tells Laban, his uncle, hey, I want to leave. But of course, Laban doesn't want to lose such a great and profitable servant. He says as much, hey, I know God has blessed me because he is blessing you. He's blessing me through you. And he doesn't want to lose that. And so Jacob decides, what, hey, I'll work for you. Laban tries to trick him again, say, hey, let me give you a gift. Let me pay you. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that, because last time I did that, you deceived me and I ended up with the wrong wife. He's like, let me work for you. All right, let me be your shepherd. and I will take all the rejects of your flocks, all the spotted, speckled, and striped lambs, goats, and cattle, all right? And I will give you all the non-speckled, spotted, or striped, the unblemished, so to speak. All right, but what Jacob does, and continuing this whole idea of scheming, he takes all of his cattle, all of his livestock, and he takes them 3 days journey away from Laban, all right? And he pretty much does, I know it can be kind of confusing when reading the chapter, but what he's actually doing is he's just doing selective breeding, all right? He's making it so that the stronger cattle will breed with the weaker cattle, so to speak, the blemished cattle, and still, even though they will produce quote unquote blemished livestock or blemished offspring, all right, they would still be strong and profitable unto Jacob. All right, so even though the offspring that were being born were quote unquote, blemished, they were still going to grow to be strong cattle, goats, and sheep. And per their agreement, Jacob was able to take those blemished away and leave the rest for Laban. All right, so he's doing this selective breeding to give himself blemished, quote unquote, but stronger cattle and give the rest back to Laban. And in the end, he actually ends up with more livestock than Laban does. All right, so he tricks the one who tricked him before, and just all this scheming and all this stuff. This is a long chapter, guys. All right, you probably can get many different things from this chapter, but I think the two main things that stick out to me, the problems with this family, is just the favoritism that we see, especially amongst the wives, all right, and the scheming, all right, the scheming that's happening. Scheming is not believing. Never at any point is Jacob or Rachel or Leah trusting in God. They're just trying to take matters into their own hand, and it's just going to lead to more conflict, all right? We know with all the sons that were born through all the different wives and handmaidens, there's just going to be conflict among the sons now, and we know Jacob has definitely severed his relationship with his uncle, and that's going to cause them to go on the run here soon, back into a place where he's already previously severed relationships with, being back home where Esau is. And remember, Esau still wants to kill Jacob, we believe. So obviously, if there's any warning signs, anything to get out of that, favoritism, not a good thing. Scheming, not a good thing. Believe in God, trust in him, all right, and follow him with your life. That's all I got for today's chapter, guys. Hope to be more consistent with these videos going forward, but even if a video is not posted, I hope you guys are staying faithful in the reading of God's word. Tell somebody about your great God. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.